Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring RivaL, our blue Zerg in the top left-hand side. He is a Masters level Zerg, and our opponent in the bottom right from clan Special Clan, I believe. SP standing for Special, and C for Clan, I guess. Special Clan. Doggy is our Masters level Zerg in our bottom right hand side. We're in the red trunks. Red versus blue, Zerg versus Zerg. We're on Frost LE. Something you should know about Special Clan is that their top member is like a Grandmasters on the Korean server. Doggy is the 11th highest member of that clan. He's very high in their own ranking, and then also in the ranking of the national ladder. He's like 30 or 50 seed Masters. RivaL is right there with him. I believe he's a little bit higher. I think he's the one at 30 seed Masters, and Doggy's at 50. So both very high Masters level Korean, so I'm expecting this to be a fantastic game. Yeah, they're speaking perfect English, so maybe they smurf, maybe something like that. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it though. Zerg versus Zerg is such a hectic game, and I'm always looking for different little tricks to do it, because I feel like micro is the most important aspect of this matchup. And then whenever you have a map of the size of Frost LE, you have so many different possibilities for so many different play styles. You can have that, muta heavy composition is obviously very, very powerful. However, you can't discount the fact that, roach all-ins exist, and that they do so much damage, especially if they can take an opponent off, by surprise. Hatch first build from both players, pretty much identical. They're chatting like they know each other. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys were practice partners. Obviously, they're talking like they know each other, and obviously they're very skilled, so they do have a practice partner of some kind. So yeah, I mean, this could be just friendly batter. And if you guys don't have a practice partner or just someone that you hang out with, clan wars are great, but the real strength that comes from being in a clan is having somebody that you can practice against, practice all matchups, because we all know that, you can ladder all you like, but if you want to play against Protoss and you have a specific anti-Protoss build in mind, it sucks whenever you're, keyed against 4 Terrans in a row, because you don't want to play Terran, you want to play Protoss. So if you have a friend who's of all these different races, then you can practice against them, and that can really strengthen you and make you just a little bit more powerful, a little bit more competent. Pretty much identical timings. We can see the gas coming out from Doggy. Gas is already done for RivaL. A little bit in the favor of him, just pure gas income wise. Again, Frost LE is a massive map, and because of that, it's very important to get your own Zergling speed out there, not only so that you can harass your opponent, but also if you have your Zerglings far afield scouting out to see if there's Banelings being morphed in on one of the low marks. It's very important to be able to reinforce your own mineral line very quickly. Yeah, the double queens really help with that, just because of the narrow choke. You can kind of position your queens up there to hold the line at that ramp, buying you a little bit of time for those Zerglings to come back. But no matter how long those queens last against the Zerglings, if you don't have metabolic boost, your Zerglings going to take forever to get home, forever to defend. And so it's very important, even if you're going to be playing a defensive play, to, try to work in metabolic boost as quickly as possible, unless you're going something like roaches, and then it's a moot point. But you know that. If you're going to be an aggressive, RivaL is popping down a Baneling nest. It could be that this is a defensive play. Again, remember, it's Zerg versus Zerg. Everybody gets a Baneling nest eventually, just because you have to have an answer to Zergling run by. But just because of timing, because he's obviously cutting a handful of drones in order to justify the expenditure of that Baneling nest, we can see that reflected here. 25 over 20 harvesters, just a little bit in the favor of Doggy, just because of the extra spending on the tech from RivaL. Yeah, and so there we go. The second Baneling nest coming down from Doggy, but it was a little bit earlier for RivaL. I don't know if that's going to be a major difference maker. I mean, yeah, he's got a handful of Zerglings out of field right now, but we don't see a lot on the production tab. I think that might have been just for RivaL blinking a little bit and getting it out handful of seconds earlier than Doggy. Again, he got that gas a little bit earlier, so these are just minor differences. But when you have a mirror matchup like this, these minor differences have major consequences. Like the fact that this evolution chamber is positioned here. Frankly, I like to position it over here. I like to do that kind of pseudo wall off where you have an Evo chamber and then a spine crawler just to the south of that, kind of walling off this whole place and forcing the run by to go around down to the south side. But RivaL did get out that Baneling nest a little bit earlier. He is aware of the fact that, his Banelings are going to be able to shut down any sort of run by. I love that Doggy paused to do the larva inject, because he knew that Overlord wasn't going anywhere. He just cut it down. Whatever. RivaL, I don't know if that was an intentional scout that he just let go a little bit too deep. or if it was 100% of a misclick. Regardless, it's going to suck to be slightly behind in supply. He's got to spend the extra 100 minerals, especially considering the fact that he's moving out now with his Zerglings. We can see the +1 armor is coming for those Zerglings. It's probably going to be too late for this initial push. His Zerglings are going to be probably checking the third, and then when they see that there isn't one, morphing into some Banes. Wow, he's not even doing that. Is he? No, he's not. He's going to be pushing in immediately, not even making Banelings. Whoa! Massive Baneling hit from Doggy, having those defensive Banelings. RivaL knows that he major messed up. Now checking the third, trying to, salvage the situation somehow. He lost so many of Zerglings, though, to just 2 Banelings. He knows that he is in for a world of hurt, and Doggy knows that because of the lack of Zerglings now afield, he can totally justify the expenditure, get out that third, and also play a little bit of the aggressor, pushing off his own Zerglings, trying to make it so that RivaL panics a little bit, maybe force a cancel on his own hatchery. He is transferring down his queen off of creep. It'd be a major coup to go for the queen, and a nice surround on that before she can make it and be flush against that hatchery. Can't even get the final larva inject on that, and wow, Doggy has a massive lead in his Zerglings right now, but a handful more are coming in from RivaL. He hasn't made any any Banelings back at home, even though he has that Baneling nest. The queen does go down, and now RivaL is just buying time. Oh my goodness, this is absolutely a disaster. Spire on the production tab from Doggy. I missed that he switched over to that lair. However, we can see that the lair is just now being started with RivaL, and he is getting out that roach horn. He realizes that that third is down, and that's going to have to do some major aggression to back into this game. He's definitely taking a major economic hit. Oh my goodness, wow. RivaL managing to save that hatchery. I thought it was done for, especially with the cutesy micro from Doggy. However, I vastly underestimated the sheer volume of these Zerglings streaming out from RivaL, and once again the shoe is on the other foot. Now RivaL's the one pushing in here, trying to go for that cancel on that third. Remember, RivaL managed to get his own third up. It is made. It is fully functional and probably going to be saturated in just a handful of seconds. So if RivaL can go and get the kill on this hatchery, that would be huge for him. However, Doggy is definitely playing the defense, and he's also buying time for his Spire to finish. The Spire is done. He's got 900 minerals on the in his bank right now, and 900 gas in his bank right now. He wants to get out those Mutalisks. However, he has to deal with the immediate threat of these Zerglings. Pushing in here, we can see the Banelings being morphed, and with that, RivaL has to pull back. His hatchery is done, so Doggy is definitely going to be looking at some major extra gas income. On the other side of things, a lot of Zerglings. We don't see any Banelings, roaches coming out from RivaL. Remember, he did create that roach warren. He is getting that glue of reconstitution, some speed for that, as well as the infestation pit, which is really going to help him ultimately against these Mutalisks that we can see now are on the production tab from Doggy. 9 Mutalisks coming out, a really sweet number, allowing you to target down the Widow Mines, but also doing quite a lot of damage against these Zerglings. It's not going to be too handy against the roaches that we're probably going to be seeing from Doggy, what with the +1 ranged weapons being upgraded, as well as the glue of reconstitution. I foresee that Doggy is going to be, RivaL is going to be relying on those roaches to get him back into this game, just because he is still a little bit. Oh wow, no, 63 harvesters over 50 harvesters. I would have thought he would be behind, and yeah, the Spire is a major big deal that Doggy has that and RivaL does not. However, with the harvester count at 60 over 50, unless these Zerglings do a hell of a lot of damage, I would actually say that RivaL's really not looking in bad shape at all. What a fantastic Baneling hit. Now both sides have had some major Baneling hits one way or another. What I'm not seeing out of Doggy is the Mutalisks. They're not being super aggressive, and here's why. The static defenses, we have 3 spores at this third, which is really where these Mutalisks want to be frisky at, and they're forced to pull back just because of the massive DPS that those spores represent. We can see a handful more spattered around at the natural. Is any at the main? Yeah, there's one over at the main too. So he's really got all of his T's have been crossed, all of his I's have been dotted. RivaL is transitioning very well into this kind of low econ style of play. He realizes that he can't be super bully right now, but what he's doing is he's rushing for a very powerful tech play. He's rushing for, I guess, maybe a +2 timing attack. He's got his pathogen glands out. Yeah, he's starting up those infestors now that it's more than halfway done. Those infestors are going to pop out, and then I wouldn't be surprised to see him just mainline roaches now. The Hydralisks are going to be fantastic. You see the Hydralisk den on the production tab right now. That's going to be great just because it's a mobile anti-air. When coupled with the fungal growth, it really allow him to shut down those Mutalisks, but he needs to also have an answer for the plethora of Zerglings that we can see that Doggy can totally field, what with so many of those units out there. Wow! really great there. A really great play from Doggy, getting the kill finally on that hatchery, doing so much damage with his Zerglings, weakening it to the point where he only needed to do 2 volleys of shots down on that. And just look at this armada of Mutalisks out on the field right now. 19 Mutalisks, really going to be able to eat up all of these Zerglings that are on the field. One of them actually scouting those Zerglings, trying to do a run by. However, the defensive force of the Banelings and Zerglings more than a match for the small little strike force from RivaL. From RivaL, not Revival. I know RivaL's actually like a famous player, right? I don't know. This whole game reminds me of Pokemon just because of the special attack, and then RivaL is in like red, the rival that you have. RivaL has a nice unit composition. I mean, he doesn't have Mutalisks, which is really the bread and butter. That sucks. Oh man, 2 whiffed fungal growths down on top of that Mutalisk ball. That is a major whiff, because not only could he nail them and then also chain the fungals, but he also had a handful of Hydralisks in the area that could have done some match DPS damage too. And you really need to keep this Mutalisk ball in check, because as it grows, as it just gets more and more scary, then eventually Doggy's not going to have to waste gas on them to keep the numbers growing, and he can start teching onto that hive tech, and that is really what RivaL does not want to see happen. Yeah, I agree. It would have been glorious. He missed that fungal growth though, and unfortunately for him, he's also allowing the Mutalisk ball just to get totally out of control. Oh, but this is a scary composition. Roach Hydra in and of itself is terrifying when coupled with fungal growths, especially when coupled with fungal growths cast by a master level player. They can land perfectly on that Mutalisk ball and really eat them up and cut them up in small little manageable chunks. So even though the Hydralisks in a straight up fight might not go toe to toe against these Mutalisks, with the fungal growths, they're adding in just a handful of extra DPS, making it so that the Mutalisks have to engage maybe in an unfavorable position, maybe away from their Zergling support. Then this could totally go in the favor of RivaL. Remember, this is a very supply heavy composition. Those roaches do eat up a lot of supply, and the fact that he's actually behind on supply is terrifying. Doggy has a massive ground army. He's got a lot of Zerglings, he's got a lot of Banelings, and he's also got a ridiculous amount of Mutalisks, and these Mutalisks are really going to be able to shell down a lot of damage. It's going to come down to 100% positioning. Can Doggy catch RivaL out in the open, and can RivaL land his fungal growth? So this is really, again, micro intensive, even though we're at the 16-minute mark of this game. The Hydralisks are pushing in. We can see that those Mutalisks have to be careful. Ooh, 5 Mutalisks have been caught. We can see them, how quickly they get shredded by those Hydralisks. They do have the grooved spine upgrade. The Banelings need to get in there on top of these Mutalisks, or they're on top of these Hydralisks, because they do so much extra damage against them. Wow, those Banelings do so much damage against those Hydralisks, as well as the Infestors, and they just immediately melt away. And now we have a base race kind of scenario where can the Mutalisks take care of the roaches before they take care of Doggy's base? And wow, look at so much damage. Both players have managed to snip down the opponent's third at one point or another. However, these roaches quickly being riddled away by this massive ball of Mutalisks. Oh my goodness, will this hatchery go down? I think so. I think it will. Oh no, it doesn't. Man, I'm terrible. Those roaches just barely dying. And look at this, 172 over 97 supply. Here comes the counterattack. A lot of Zerglings is going to be streaming into an relatively unprotected third. We don't have a bunch of Banelings in position. However, we do have Hydralisks, and those Hydralisks shred anything, including Zerglings. And with the spine crawlers there to tank a lot of damage, we can actually see this get cleaned up with relatively few drones lost. Look at his workers kill tab 1-0 with the sheer amount of Banelings being thrown around in this game. I think that is a comically small number. You know what's not comical is just the sheer volume of Mutalisks. Look at this, 35 Mutalisks pushing out here, and we only have 9 Hydralisks on the field right now, 3 Infestors, and those have got to be the best fungal growths in the world. These Mutalisks really want to get a snipe down on that spore crawler before it gets rooted. Yes, it does. Unfortunately, not able to pick up the queen, but that's a wise decision because the Infestors were there. Really got to shy away from the possibility of a chain fungal growth scenario, especially because you don't know how many Hydralisks your opponent has managed to re-macro with. Speaking of macro, 77 over 62 Harvesters, actually pretty top drawer for both players. We can see that RivaL's sitting in for the long haul, realizing that he's really got to deal eventually with this Mutalisk ball. It's totally gotten out of hand, and he's really lost control of the majority of the map, and that's reflected in the fact that Doggy is expanding everywhere. He's cutting down a lot of the roaches that were checking around the relatively few amount of corners. However, even with this small little strike force of Zerglings, all that's going to do is open the door for Doggy once again to push in here, get another cancel or a kill on that hatchery. We can see that it does go down, as well as the minor skirmish down here in the bottom left-hand side, but really this is just distracting RivaL away from the fact that Doggy is taking his 5th in the top right-hand side. This is going to be a purely gas income place, I'm sure. He just needs just a little bit of extra gas so he can either continue to produce mutas, or more likely is going to be capitalizing on the fact that his infestor pit is coming out himself. He's going to be moving on to Hive, maybe a Greater Spire tech, maybe Ultralisks. I'm not 100% sure. Really is going to come down to the play style of whatever Doggy prefers, because of 200 supply, what else are you going to spin that on? You can't spin it on tech. I mean, you can't spin it on units. You got to spin it on tech somehow. Where are those Mutalisks? They're down here in the bottom left-hand side. It looks like it's run by just doing a little bit extra damage, taking out a handful of those queens. However, with the reinforcing units of those Zerglings, they will get cleaned up eventually. Swing over to the... Ooh, no, wow. I want to talk about these upgrades, but I also want to talk about the fact that this hatchery is going to go down, and this is actually the first time economic damage has been done by both players. 6 workers killed in the favor of RivaL. It's a very nice blow for him to take down that hatchery, especially considering the fact that his own hatchery is now being reconstructed, and his Hydralisks and Roaches are protecting it. However, because they were out of position for that, they are unable to defend the run-by of those Mutalisks, managing to take it down, even though they were taking quite a lot of damage from that Spore Crawler. 2 units killed for that. This hatchery did indeed go down, so an eye for both players. 183 over 170 supply. It's so impressive the fact that RivaL, who was down by, 50 supply at one point in this game, has crawled back, and now the deficit is barely under 10. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous, but this is really where the deficit is now. It's in tech. Hive is underway, and we have the Infestor Pit totally done for RivaL, but he's still on that lair tech because he really hadn't had the time, the opportunity, or the money to invest in that tech. I mean, look at that bank. Look at how ridiculously different that bank is. He just needs a handful of lucky fungal growths. He needs to take down this Mutalisk flock into something that he can actually handle in a straight-up fight, and he needs to make it so that he doesn't have to worry about the constant threat of a run-by from Doggy. And really, the run-by is going to be less and less intimidating as the mineral patches begin to get worn down. I mean, eventually he's only going to be on 2 bases because he can't afford to push out to the incredibly far away location that his 5th is probably going to be on, because once he takes that, his 4th is way over here. He's not going to be able to hold both. So the time bomb is ticking. Doggy's definitely got the upper hand on this, and you can see that because he's pushing in here with these Banelings. He's getting out some Corruptors. Greater Spire has been started, so RivaL is really just going to be amassing this Death Ball and eventually going for a Doom March. Mutalisks pushing in once again, going to be going for the cancel or the kill on that hatchery. It looks like it does finish. Where's the fungal growth? No, the infestors did not push down here. Infestors instead, wow, look at those fungal growth. The fungal growth down on top of those Banelings. That is awesome. I've never seen so many Banelings die so very quickly. However, the hatchery also goes down. Both hatcheries going down, and check this out. That's not a lot of money, and the majority of that money is just because the long distance mining down at the natural as well as the paltry mining at the mineral fields is just enough to keep a trickle of minerals coming in, and there's no bank at all, and that signals that RivaL is ready to move on out. There goes a nice fungal growth. Hopefully another chain will allow the Hydralisk to actually get in on top of those Mutalisks, and we can see that Mutalisk number is beginning to fall. 23 Mutalisks right now. 8 Corruptors are out on the field. Greater Spire is going to be finishing in just a handful of seconds. Will this composition deal with the Broodlords that are forthcoming in just a handful of seconds? I'm not 100% sure. Even if RivaL manages to push out there and kill both of these bases that are mining right now for Doggy, he hasn't taken either of his bases. He's as all in as you can possibly get. His economy is in shambles. These infested Terrans probably not going to be enough to actually take down this hatchery. Certainly not enough now that the Mutalisks have arrived. However, they definitely served as a distractor to allow RivaL to push in just a little bit deeper into enemy territory. 14 Broodlords on the production tab right now. RivaL is just working against the clock. He needs to move as fast as he possibly can, and he's moving very quickly with his Hydralisks and Roaches, but he's leaving his infestors just a little bit far away, and it really needs to get underneath these Broodlords. Oh my goodness, so many Broodlords pushing in here. He really just wants to get that fungal growth. There's a nice fungal growth down on top of those Broodlords. However, the Hydralisks are quickly melting away. We only have 6 of them left on the field. The infested Terrans probably not enough to actually take down these Broodlords, who are really just tanky if you think about it. I mean, 225 hit points, especially when accompanied by this vanguard of Mutalisks out on the field. Doggy crushes RivaL's standing force. All the Hydralisks go down. The tanky Roaches managing to squeeze their way up to the third. Will they be able to take down this base? I don't think so. Even though the Broodlords have lagged behind on this fight, the Mutalisks representing more than enough DPS to actually take down these roaches before they manage to take down that hatchery. Another little spawning pool of infested Terrans pop out here, actually managing to take down that hatchery. However, the flight of just terror. All these Broodlords are eventually going to waddle over here, eventually going to see that the hatcheries have not been rebuilt, and RivaL at 93 supply against 180 supply for Doggy. He does not have an answer to these guys. This little infester hit squad, I believe is the term, coined by Destiny. It really is just, there's no answer for it. I mean, he could take out the economy 100% from Doggy, and he could win strictly on this, which is unfortunate because I really feel like RivaL did a great game. Really good game. He was in a rather precarious situation at the beginning of this, and he managed to crawl his way back into the game with a little bit more of an unorthodox playstyle. I mean, Zerg versus Zerg is pretty much exclusively a Mutalisk versus Mutalisk matchup, and unfortunately for him, Doggy managed to get up more Mutalisk than him, so he had to be kind of strange. He had to use a composition that was kind of unorthodox, and he made it work. I mean, those Hydralisks and those Roaches are a fantastically powerful unit composition, and he made it work. He was very cost effective from that, but you can't. I don't care how cost effective you are. If your opponent has 5 bases and you've got 2 that are mining, and your opponent makes his way up to Broodlords, yeah, you can be cost effective all you like. You can chain your fungals all you like, but these Broodlords are just so powerful. Tier 3 is so good against Tier 2. So it looks like Doggy is going to take this. I'm not 100% sure why RivaL hasn't tapped out right now. It's probably has something to do with the fact that his infestors were down here being kind of frisky, and he just wanted to have a little bit more fun. Maybe he wanted to see exactly how all-in Doggy was with this final push with these Broodlords. But I can assure you that this game was definitely in the hands of Doggy once he managed to crush all those Hydralisks back at home. Probably before then, probably whenever he managed to take out both of these hatcheries right there. Great play, absolutely fantastic. It really just shows you, the top drawer playstyle. I mean, this was Masters level on the Korean server, I believe. I mean, that was just me looking up their profiles on Battle.net. This could have been played on the NA server. I don't know. I have no idea. They were speaking English. Great game. Thank you for whoever possessed this. I'm going to assume it was Doggy just because he won, but it could have been RivaL because he should be proud of this game too. You know who else is proud? I am proud of you because you managed to watch one of my replays. Thank you for that. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could